P. Diddy or Puff Daddy has been arrested. I have some opinions on that, and we're also going to read the report to see what it is he's actually being charged with, something that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to. Second thing we're going to talk about is the Israel pager attack on Hezbollah or Lebanon, where they had some exploding pagers. What does that mean for the future of warfare, etc.? A lot of people have a lot of opinions about it. I'm going to say mine. And then I'm going to start my show with making fun of Kamala Harris because it just feels fun and a lot of dark news out there. So got to have a little bit of fun before we start it. Appreciate you guys. Dream Rare Podcast starts now. Hopefully you enjoy.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? We got Joyce on Facebook, Kirk, Eddie, Isadora, Nettie, the whole crew on YouTube. Someone said the diddler got diddled. Some would say that. Anyway, listen, you got to calm down there. Just kidding. But all right, let's make sure everything's cracking. Brett, Sharon, Carrie, Abnormally Something, Janelle. We'll just start it up real quick. As people are coming in, I'm going to just roast Kamala Harris because I got some more serious news. P. Diddy news, very serious. The Israel blowing up pagers is a very serious news. I didn't want to start with that heavy stuff, so let's just roast Kamala. She unveiled her new accent, and this one might be the worst accent of all. So here's the new Kamala Harris accent when she's speaking to, I'm guessing, Hispanic people.
I love you back. I love you back. I love you back. I love you back.
I love you long time, mi Kamala. We love. It's like, yo, Hispanic people do not talk like that. I think she got caught between her like Japanese accent. She like, me love you, Tamagotchi, anime. It's like, bro, it's Hispanic. She, oh yeah, me amo, Kamala. You can have abortion, me just like you. It's like, sounds like she's trying to make fun of like a Chinese like delivery person or something, but I don't know. Whatever it was totally racist, and I'm voting for Trump because the racism on her side is just way too extreme. Shrooming New, we got a hater in the chat. He said, Anomaly will believe anything the mainstream media says, no matter how ridiculous. Yeah, good read, bro. You must be high IQ over there. That's a good read of my channel. Everything, it's just mainstream media. There's no difference between Anomaly, CNN. It's just the same exact thing. It's like whatever they say, I'm like, what? They like Kamala Harris? I do now too. Are you all right, bro? Can we help our guy in the chat here? He's like downer already. But anyway, speaking of mainstream media, the mainstream media and the people that I don't know, the feds, I guess, arrested Puff Daddy. We'll start with that story. Before I read the court case, I have some, I don't want to say unpopular opinions, but anytime something like this happens, right? And I'll get into Diddy in a second, like Bill Cosby, O.J. Simpson, Michael Jackson. These are the three things that I remember from my childhood. Like O.J. Simpson's running away in a Bronco and the whole world revolved around. Oh, and Monica Lewinsky, which if you start looking into Monica Lewinsky, some really interesting connections there to a country that must not be named. But anyway, with the O.J. Simpson thing, like it took over reality and it's like O.J.'s guilty. Everybody knows it. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying it took up 2 years of my time in the media. Michael Jackson, they said that he was doing all this stuff. Personally, I don't believe that to be true. I've gone back and looked at that. And then the other one was Bill Cosby. Everybody calls Bill Cosby a rapist and he's such a bad guy. I looked at that court case as well. And I don't think most people did look at the court case. And I personally found the case extraordinarily weak. And the person who was accusing him to change stories too often for me, if I was, I wasn't part of the jury. Long story short, like they have a good way of getting everyone in society to say everything at once. Like Michael Jackson did that. Maybe he did, maybe he did. Or maybe they were trying to cover for the Jeffrey Epstein type characters who they didn't want everybody to think was doing all that. So they picked somebody and just made him the fall guy, whether he was involved in it or not. Bill Cosby, I'm not saying he's perfect, but everybody, like all the normies, like if you listen to anything normal, they'll just always talk about Bill Cosby and how the media and tarnished his legacy and he's in jail. I'm not saying he never did anything, but that court case versus what they said, I wasn't seeing it. So with Puff Daddy, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, let me see what they're actually charging him with. I'm not saying he's innocent. This is just my process. Like the normal person and the normie will be like, oh, the television told me something. I'm just going to start repeating it in TV and movies. And then everybody's just saying the same thing. And you ask the average person, you're like, what do you think of Bill Cosby? They're like, oh, he's a rapist. It's like, have you ever read the court case? No. Have you ever read a second of it? No. Have you ever heard the counter narrative? No. So you just are repeating whatever you're being told. It doesn't mean you're wrong, but I don't like to do that. With Puff Daddy or P. Diddy or P. Diddley or Diddley Do, whatever people want to call him, Sean Combs, there was always something about him. Like, I don't know how many people follow hip hop history, but Biggie Smalls and Tupac were two of the better rappers of their generation, East Coast, West Coast. And then both of them got killed. And there were two people that were kind of around the deaths, or at least one of them. One was Suge Knight, and the other one is Puff Daddy or P. Diddy. I can't remember if he was in the limousine or he was just, Biggie's boy. But there was like a sentiment and a rumor in hip hop for a long time that Biggie was involved. And, a lot of people speculated a lot of things. Moving forward, it's clear to me that Diddy was somebody bigger than just like a record exec. Like he was always on Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen was basically like covering for him and being like, oh, look at my friend P. Diddy, P. Diddley, and then everyone would be, it's like, you don't get on Ellen if you're just a normal person. Like you got to be really connected to get on Ellen DeGeneres. And then I was looking recently, the guy that they fed us before it was like Tim Ballard and all that stuff for the conservatives. And I'm not saying anything about him. I'm just saying he's like the guy that now represents fighting human trafficking. 10 years ago, I don't know if you guys remember, 20 years ago, it was Ashton Kutcher. And Ashton Kutcher was the media good guy fighting human trafficking. And I've been just doing research recently, and I found out that, he called Diddy his BFF, and they were like best friends. I'm not saying it means anything, but now, like when I was younger, I was like, oh, Ashton Kutcher is a hero. He's fighting human trafficking. Now I'm like, Ashton Kutcher is, I don't want to slander his name or anything, but I would assume that he's connected to government in some ways. That's just my assumption. It's not an accusation or anything, but in order to be the guy that they were telling everybody was fighting like human trafficking and he's this and he's that, like he's so plugged into mainstream media. I looked recently at his Twitter, and his last tweet was like shouting out this guy Cohen's new book, and the Cohen new book was also shouted out by Mike Pompeo, Paul Ryan. He had like a CFR, like Council of Foreign Relations, in the bio. So it's like Ashton Kutcher's not just like a normal guy fighting human trafficking. He's plugged into what I would consider the swamp or the deep state somehow. I don't know what his connections are or whatever. Maybe he's just friends with them, but you get what I'm saying. It's like now I look back on all this stuff and it's like P. Diddy was clearly somebody more. With all that being said, I give him the benefit of the doubt, not because I like him or trust him, but I'm not going to just like hear something and be like, oh, let me just say what everyone else is saying. Let me look at it, right? So let's look at what they're charging him with. Here's BBC. It says that in an indictment that was unsealed at the time, prosecutors alleged that he had engaged in kidnapping, forced labor, bribery, and other crimes. They described him as the head of a criminal enterprise that abused women, used threats of violence, and forced them to participate in drug-fueled orgies with male prostitutes. At one point, they call it like a freak off and say, they were doing sexual acts. Mr. Combs' lawyer said that the freak offs were consensual. Is it sex trafficking? Not if everybody wants to be there. So there's a lot of that, but I guess it would be like kidnapping, forced labor, bribery, and other crimes. On that note, I guess I would just say this. A lot of people, they don't trust the mainstream media. And it's one of those things where if people make it public, then it's like, why now? They made Epstein public. It doesn't mean Epstein was a nothing, but then they like swept that under the rug. Ghislaine Maxwell was like a public thing. And then that kind of got swept under the rug. And now you have this P. Diddy thing. And I'm sure this is going to get swept under the rug. So I'm not saying he's not guilty of it, but I don't know. He's clearly somebody. He's clearly connected, and there's a reason they're going after him now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I guess my opinion is that P. Diddy is highly, highly, highly connected to a lot of people. I think he was heavily involved in like high level stuff that went beyond the music industry. And I heard a recording. Hopefully, it was real and not AI. At this point, you got to really wonder. But it was a recording of Suge Knight from prison saying, like, Diddy, you know too much. You know they're going to come for you because you know their secrets. I assume it was real, but obviously in this day and age, it could have not been. Whether it was real or not, that's kind of what I think, is that he was connected to some high level people. And when you're connected to high level people, it doesn't necessarily mean they like you and they're not going to throw you under the bus. So I feel like Diddy is being thrown under the bus now. And I don't know. People are saying Ye called out Diddy too. Yeah, I know he called him a fed and said the reason he talks all that stuff is because he can't do it. I remember that from the Drink Champs podcast. So someone said he seemed like such a gentleman. Yeah, I don't know about that, but maybe if you watch like Ellen DeGeneres or like Jimmy Kimmel or something. But let's see. Someone said first live show. How we doing? Well, hopefully you enjoy it. I'm going to move on to the second story. I guess this is my Diddy wrap up. Everyone's going to say that he's this, he's that, because he's the fall guy, right? Like, and I'm not saying these people weren't, but like OJ Simpson, it's all about him. Then it's like Bill Cosby, it's all about him. Now, all of main, and then it was Epstein for a little while, but they didn't let people get that deep. Now it's like all the normies are allowed to point to Diddy because it's just obvious now that he's getting arrested. The question is like, what was he doing? What was the bigger picture? And are they going to let that bigger picture ever come out? That's what I think, at least. Like, as far as Diddy, him getting arrested, it's not going to change the world. I'm sure people who hate him are going to be happy. And there's a lot of people in rap who didn't like him who are like, yeah, he's a bad guy. But I guess from my vantage point, I'm just curious to see like, what's the bigger story there that they're not saying? And are they ever going to say it? I'm not saying he's innocent. I just think what they're charging him with, it doesn't seem to be as big as what people are assuming that he did. Like saying that he was having sex parties and flying people in. I don't know. I think there's probably more to that story than just that. Because even those charges, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's as deep as people think that it is. But we'll see. I mean, I don't know that he'll win it in court or anything. But like having freak-offs and sexual parties, like, you know, what kind, like what else? Who was there? Was it bigger than that? Was it government, or was it just like his friends? You know, this is where my head goes. So I'm going to be patient and just see what else they come out with. But it seems to me like another situation where everyone in the media is going to talk about it. And then as soon as they want, they're basically going to like go to the next thing and act like it just ended there. Like with Epstein, it was like, oh, Jeffrey Epstein was this like bad guy, but like, we're not going to look into it that much. It's like, was it just that? No, it was way bigger than Epstein, but they just covered it up by, you know, I would say like a slow drip to the public. Like, yeah, this happened. Okay, next. They didn't even ask a question about it in the debate, and everybody was like, why should they ask a question about that? And it's like, well, what if this guy was blackmailing politicians for a foreign country or for an agency or what it like that? Then why wouldn't you ask a question? At least you could see what Kamala and Trump say. Like they could, we don't even know what they say because they barely ever talk about it, because it's like, it's over. It's not over though. And it went way deeper. So that's what I think about Diddy. I could talk about it all day, but I don't have really in-depth reporting on it. Just that's my vantage point from a bird's eye view. I'm interested to see where they go with it. So the Israel story is what everybody wanted me to talk about, and it seems pretty crazy and warfare-wise, definitely like a wild tactic. So let's look at it. Sorry, that was the wrong one. All right, Associated Press, they said Lebanon is rocked by a second wave of exploding devices as Israel declares a new phase of war. While the pagers were used by Hezbollah members, there was no guarantee who was holding the device at the time of the blast, said AP. Also, many of the casualties were not Hezbollah fighters, but members of the group's extensive civilian operations, mainly serving Lebanon's Shiite community. I almost said lesbian. Sorry about that. At least 2 health workers were among those killed Tuesday. Doctors, nurses, paramedics, charity workers, teachers, and office administrators work for Hezbollah-linked organizations, and unknown number had pagers. So I don't know the full story since it's so new, it's all coming in, but apparently, from what I've seen, the most likely thing that happened is they were getting pagers from another country and Israel intercepted that and planted bombs on them. That's what some people are speculating. Others are going further and saying that they went, that they're blowing up even other electronic devices. So now you have people speculating, does Israel have the technology to blow up just pagers that they planted a bomb in, or do they have the power to blow up, all phone devices, which is leading a lot of people to be paranoid and be like, wait, can Israel just blow up any computer or phone at any given time? I don't know that they have the technology to do that. My guess is that they planted a bomb in some of these devices because they switched to pagers to try to like get away from Israeli technology. And I'm going to try to be as fair as I possibly can on this topic. First thing I think people need to understand is Israel has really good intelligence and technology. Like their technology and the data that they have, or the programs and the, I would say, capabilities slash, there's other words I could use that are probably more pinpoint. But when it comes to the technological market and innovation and patents, etc., Israel is absolutely crushing. And I think there's a lot of categories that Israel's doing well in. So, Lebanon is, regardless of whether you like them or not, from what I've heard from people that are in the know and just anybody that studies the region, like Lebanon cannot really compete with Israel in that department. Like Israel's intelligence is so deep in Lebanon, Israel's technology is so deep. So I think Hezbollah was trying to like outsmart them and use pagers, and then Israel outsmarted them and blew up their pagers. So I guess, war is crazy and bad things are going to happen. But I have to say this element of it, because I think like watching Republicans talk about this is kind of just like weirding me out. I'm not saying or telling a country what to do during war. Warfare is brutal. It's unfortunate and it's really sad what's going on. But when I look at people like Ben Shapiro, and here's how they report it, they're always saying like, we did it the safest, the greatest way that killed the least amount of people. This is like the greatest attack in modern history that you spare the most civilians. Like, how dare you? And then if you disagree with him, it's blood libel. I would have more respect if they were like, yeah, we're just going to blow shit up because we want to win the war. Like, I would have more respect. I'm like, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but like, you're being honest. Like, you're blowing shit up, you're killing kids, you're killing civilians, but you're also killing Hezbollah, and that's just what you want to do, right? I could at least respect a guy who says that. But people like Ben Shapiro, I'm not trying to be a dick or be rude or piss off my pro-Israel fan base, but this is just the truth. It's like they think that they're God's gift to the world. Everything that they do is perfect, and anybody that suggests that what they're doing isn't perfect is being hateful and needs to be shut up or hurt. Like, and I'm not trying to like exaggerate, but that's just what it's doing. Like, it was a crazy move. You could defend it and say, well, Hezbollah does really bad things too. They shoot rockets. Sure. That's a retaliation. Sure. But to sit here and like everything that Israel does, you just have to pretend like it's the greatest, safest, most amazing thing ever. I'm sorry. It's not the safest thing ever. It didn't spare the most civilian lives ever. That's not what it was. It was a crazy, high IQ, brutal move to hurt a lot of people. Some who are your enemies, some who are just random people, and overwhelm the hospitals there, which are mostly filled with great people who are now suffering and watching people like with their bottoms missing. It's really sad. But that's kind of my take, at least at the start, is that I could see why people would defend it. Like, if you're pro-Israel, you're going to defend that war. If you're pro the other side or whatever, or you don't like war, you're going to defend that war. But to watch all the pro-Israel people, like, in my opinion, all they do is lie. Everything they do, they have to pretend like it was the safest, greatest, most nice thing that's ever been done in human history. And if you say it's not the safest thing ever done, then you're a hater and you're anti-Semitic. And it's like, how did they? Let's just play a little game, right? How did they in Lebanon? How did they plant bombs all over their pagers? Probably Mossad or someone connected to the IDF. That seems pretty likely. Was infiltrating Lebanon and then got Lebanese people to think that they were Lebanese, but they were really serving Israel. And then they planted a bunch of bombs on their equipment. Okay. But what are you not allowed to say? This is why Israel's so smart in dominating everything, because they don't allow you to say they're dominating everything. You can't suggest that someone in a country has dual loyalty to Israel or they call you anti-Semitic. So if you're an agent of Israel in any foreign country, all you have to do is cry anti-Semitism when anybody figures out that you're doing what you're doing. And then it's like this whole thing where it's like, whoa, you can't say that. It's like, of course they have agents all over Lebanon. They're probably, they speak Lebanese. Like they're so infiltrated in Lebanon. I'm pretty sure that like it's going to be really hard. Like if Israel wants to, they're going to probably win the war. I'm just being honest. Like if you're Lebanese, like Israel has better technology. They got agents all in your country. You know what I'm saying? You can't even get a pager. They're blowing that up. Like you're not going to beat them on that level. They're smart, they're sophisticated, and they've infiltrated almost completely. There's a lot of countries like that, but you can't say that it's happening in other countries. You can only say it's happening there or something. But I personally think that whether it's Israel and Palestine or Ukraine and Russia, from an Israeli perspective or a Palestinian perspective or a Ukrainian perspective or a Russian perspective, like I get what they're going through. But what people don't realize is in America, because we're aligning ourselves with this type of behavior, we're bringing it on ourselves as well. Like I'm going to start with Ukraine and Russia war because it's easier for my audience to understand it for whatever reason. I'm not pro-Putin. I'm not anti-Ukraine, but I do not support the war in Russia and Ukraine. I don't support our weapons going there. I don't support the aid. I think Zelensky's corrupt. I think Ukraine is getting us in a lot of trouble. I think they're fighting an unwinnable war after we spent 20 years in Afghanistan. If the U.S. military can't even beat the Taliban and take over their stuff because we don't know what to do with it, what are we going to do in other countries where we don't necessarily understand the culture, which was laid out by Putin? I'm not saying you have to believe everything he said, but when it comes to Ukraine and the Bolsheviks, he understands the 100-year history of why this conflict's even happening. And if you want to look into the Bolsheviks, that's a fascinating time in history, but you'll get called names for figuring out what's going on there. Anyway, it's like you fast forward to now, it doesn't mean I support the other side. It's just like, we just got out of an unwinnable war that made us less safe. And now we're getting in this one. And when you look at how, and I'm going to get back to Israel in a second, but when you look at how Ukraine and Russia do war, Ukraine is way more desperate than America. Because Ukraine is having kids die, soldiers die, fathers die. Like they're fighting one of the hardest militaries to fight, and they're being gaslit by NATO and the Western world into killing themselves at war. For what? For what? So people are getting super desperate in Ukraine because they want to win the war, but they're not really winning the war. And I'm not an expert at war, but it's not hard for me to figure out that America and Ukraine are not winning the Russian war, because at first they said they were only going to do this and they were only going to do this, and they were and now they're doing more. There's missiles, there's tanks, there's this, there's that. Now they want to fight into Russia. They never wanted to do that because they thought they didn't have to do that to beat Russia. But now that they're probably getting their asses kicked, they're like, okay, they're getting more desperate. Let's send a missile there. Let's do this. Like they're ramping up war. They're ramping up tensions. And when tensions get ramped up, crazy shit happens. And I'm not going to say like that's fully responsible for the Trump president assassination, but you look at that guy, you send a crazy brainwashed American over to fight in a war in Ukraine, and they start picking up on the tactics of the paramilitary groups that you couldn't talk about on Facebook, like the Azov Battalion a couple of years ago. And then they bring those tactics back to America, and now we're having terrorism in America. It's the same thing with Israel and Palestine. And I know, like, if you're pro-Palestine or you're, sympathetic towards Palestine, you call Israel terrorism. If you're pro-Israel, you say everything Israel does is the safest, greatest, nicest, perfect, the most perfect thing ever. Everything they do is perfect, and it's blood libel to suggest otherwise, and everything they do is perfect. But, the other guys are the terrorists, and we're the good guys, and everything. It's like, you can say what you want, but the tactics are increasing, and they're getting crazier and more savage. So when they start doing that in other countries want to do it back. And it becomes this escalation where you could both point to this and point to that. But this is not the world that we lived in 10 years ago or 15 years ago. That peacetime that really never existed, but you had like certain rules. All those rules are being broken right now. So it's going to affect America. And this is just my 2 cents when it comes to Israel and Palestine. And this might upset some people who are extremely biased. If you could tell, I'm not biased towards one side or the other. Like, I'm American. I'm just trying to call it like I see it. Like, Israel, most of the people, if not all of the people there, serve in the IDF, right? That's their military. So when they say that Hezbollah, like, they'll kill Hezbollah, they'll kill kids, they'll kill random people, and they'll be like, well, we tried to get Hezbollah. It's like, well, the IDF is a military, but if anybody attacked random people in Israel, they would say it's terrorism. Of course, it's like you're just going after people. But they would say, well, everybody in that country basically serves in the IDF. And then Israel says for Hezbollah, well, they're a paramilitary group and they're this and that. And it's like, but there's also people that work at local hospitals that aren't related to them. They just live there. Like you're a psychopath, in my opinion, if you think that all the people there are terrible. Beirut is filled with a lot of great people. Lebanese people are fantastic. They're not all terrorists. They're not all bad people. And the people that are born there and forced to be raised there, that's all that they know. I know people that that's just where they're from. Some people came to America. Other people stayed there. Like the media will have you brainwashed to think that everybody in Lebanon is a terrorist and everybody deserves this shit. But imagine and I'm not trying to be overly emotional with it, but imagine your daughter or your sister, whatever, she's 23, 24, and she's working at a hospital. And then a bunch of all that stuff comes in. And it's the most traumatic day of her entire life, and things are blowing up all around her. And then people in other countries are like, yeah, your daughter's a terrorist. She's a terrorist. She deserves that because she's around the U.S. military who committed war crimes in here. And it's what comes around goes around. And I don't wish it for anybody because it's horrific what's going on. But America is so, a lot of people, they're so delusional because they believe one of the narratives of the war. Like in Ukraine, it's like, oh, Ukraine's perfect and amazing and everything Russia does is bad and we're so great. The Ukrainian military tactics are not, they're not 100% amazing and safe and perfect. It's crazy shit. War's crazy. When it comes to Israel, you can defend the beeper attack. I don't care. If you like Israel, if you support them, I understand why you defend it, but you got to stop with the gas. I mean, you don't have to, but less and less people are believing it. Just to be like, Ben Shapiro's like, it's the most perfect attack ever. That's Ben Shapiro's logic. It's Israel is the perfect country that never does anything wrong. And if you ever suggest they ever did anything on purpose, then that's blood libel. And you're committing an offense against the Jewish people. But once again, there are no groups. And if you notice there's groups, you're anti-Semitic, right? And of course, there's no agents or anything because that's hateful for you to think there's agents, although it was the agents in a foreign country that blew up the pager. So, it's you're not, Lebanon's not going to beat Israel at that war. But at the same time, you got to look at it like the Afghanistan war. America, with our military, we could blow things up, but we couldn't beat the Taliban because we didn't know what to do with, Afghanistan, build schools and turn them into the West. They don't want to be the West, and that's a lot of the Middle East. It's at a certain point, it would be nice if Israel got along with people because the truth is they have different cultures and they're never going to be the same. So, Israel can fight and they can fight. And I don't think they're going to beat Israel because Israel has really advanced technology. But at the same time, I don't think Israel is going to do as much as it wants to do to other countries. And I think they're trying to get America involved because Iran, the more and now if they retaliate, then Israel's going to freak out and then America's going to give them more money or something. I just see the cycle going on. And it just sucks that America has to be in all these wars. I don't think it's helping our country. And, I would say this when it comes to Ukraine and Israel, and a good ally is a good ally, but we really need to reevaluate our priorities. Let me give you an example. Israelis, especially the Israeli government, the Israeli politicians, the Israeli military, they're going to do what's best for Israel, as they should. You have conservative politicians. I've showed this. They write op-eds in the Wall Street Journal, which mostly is read by conservatives, and they say, you should take our refugees. We're calling all these Palestinian terrorists and, they're terrorists. You got to believe us. But then we want you to take the terrorists essentially into your country. It's why would conservative Israelis want us to take in the refugees that they're calling terrorists? Think about it. Even if you're the most pro-Israel, pro-America person, why would a conservative Netanyahu cabinet member write an op-ed in a Republican newspaper telling America to take in the refugees from Palestine that they have convinced you are terrorists and deserve to die or be kicked off their land? Why would they want you to take them in? The logical conclusion that you'd come to is they don't give a shit about you or your country or your people. They care about their country and their people. They are loyal to Israel, not to America, to their people, to their country. Fair? But this is why America's going to lose over time. Israel is loyal to Israel. They will do something against America if it benefits them. America will do stuff for Israel before they do stuff for their own country. So you have one country that serves themselves, and then you have our country that serves them. Like they win. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing with like Lebanon. I'm not even trying to like cry about it, but it's like Lebanon doesn't have the technological capability. If anything, it's just going to be this dragged out war for decades, but they're not going to like win against a country like that that's so infiltrated in their own country. In America, I hate to say it, but it's kind of the same thing. It's like Trump, that's who he serves. You can't say it because it's like hate speech, but it's the truth. And then Republican media tries to paint this narrative like, oh, Kamala is so pro-Palestine. She's absolutely not. They'll say, oh, Chuck Schumer's a Palestinian. No, Chuck Schumer is a Jewish American who's writing a book about anti-Semitism. He's not a Palestinian. Chuck Schumer is a Jewish American citizen who's writing a book on hate against his people, the Jewish people, but that you also can't say exists because then it's hate speech. So it's like, America, our politics, like if Israel does something we don't agree with, we don't do anything because we can't do anything. In my view, and I'm not even complaining about it, it's just the way of the world. Israel has so much leverage over America. American politicians are afraid to say or do anything. All they can do is open up the piggy bank for Israel. Take our money, take our money, take our money, take our weapons, take our money, take our money. We'll pass more anti-Semitic speech laws for you. Take our money, take our weapons. That's what America does. Israel, they're like, you could take the refugees. We'll send them to Europe. We'll send them to America. We don't care. Just keep giving us money. It's like, okay, I guess that's the greatest ally in the world then. And then it's the same thing with Ukraine. How is Ukraine really a great ally? I mean, they're a good ally for NATO. They're a good ally for people that have business there. And they're a good ally for the, Council of Foreign Relations and people who've wanted to start this war. But if you look at our economy, our relationship with the world, our culture, it's all going down the drain. And then we're just funneling money to Ukraine. And then they call you a terrorist. I'm not pro-Afghanistan. No offense, but I don't really care about Afghanistan. It's not really on my radar. But God bless the Afghani people. It's just not. I have no bias in your favor. No offense, I just don't. I'm not pro-Afghanistan, but it's like we spent $1 trillion, 20 years fighting in circles and just blowing our money for another agenda, and then we left. And now what? All the propaganda for 20 years. Where did that get us? It got us nowhere. And they'll just say, oh, I'm sorry. Just like they did with COVID. Oh, yeah, we lied for like 4 years. My bad. We screwed over your life. Oh, well, next scam that we're going to call you a conspiracy theorist for agreeing with. Okay. They're going to do the same shit with Ukraine. Israel's a little more complex because it's got so many weird sides. You have like AOC and Ilhan Omar who suck. So then Republicans listen to like Sean Hannity and Ben Shapiro, and they're like, well, if AOC sucks, then Ben Shapiro must be telling the truth. Not really, but and I'm not pro the other side. I'm tired of being slandered. It's just like, this is the reality of the situation. That country has total leverage over America. America is going to lose over time because when a country serves itself like that country and our country serves that country, our country gets the short end of the stick. That's what's going to happen. And I don't feel like a victim about it. This is maybe a dark way to think about things, but I think it's true. If you listen to white people when they talk about Native Americans, not all, but I'm going to say white people that love America and people that believe America is a great country, they'll tell you, well, the Native Americans were savages. They were killing each other. They weren't building. And then the Spaniards and the white people and whoever, they came over and they built incredible facilities. It was like they built a country that the Native Americans never could have built. That's what's going to happen to America. And I'm not trying to be rude, but it's like, and I don't even think it's going to be better personally, but it's just like people that are smarter than you are completely dominating you. And Republicans have no idea. They're like the useful idiots. And the liberals are also useful idiots. Like, it's genius. It's like smarter people are at the top of the pyramid, literally just running you off into conflicts that don't help you. And you're like, both sides are like fighting over the dumbest things, and they don't realize they've been duped. But it's the same concept as Americans will say, where it's like, well, it's not great what we did to the Native Americans. And we're not saying it's all great, but like, we built a better civilization. We were smarter and they got tricked. Well, that's going to happen to America. Americans are getting tricked. We're getting tricked by the Republicans. We're obviously getting tricked by the Democrats. I don't have to tell you that, but it's a dual party fake, it's like a fake narrative. So it's like, if you're Republican, you can only be Republican if you worship Israel, who will willingly send 500,000 people that they just told you were terrorists back to America. And the conservative ones will do that too, not just the liberal ones. Why? Because they don't give a shit about you. And you're not even smart enough to give a shit about yourself. So why should they care about you? They shouldn't, and they don't. But if you're worshiping somebody that doesn't even care about you, you fall, you lose, just like every other civilization that got outsmarted in humanity, in human history. And that's going to happen here. So, when it comes to the exploding pagers, I'm not gonna like condemn it because I'm not a warlord. You know what I'm saying? Like if I were a warlord, I could tell you my strategy, but I'm not gonna sit here and condemn Israel for what they did. Is it crazy? Yes. Is it high IQ and really savage? Absolutely. Did innocent people get hurt? Yes. Are they gonna lie about it? Of course. And they're gonna say that no one got hurt and it's the greatest thing ever, and you're hateful if you disagree. Of course. But I'm not going to condemn the attack. I'm just going to keep it real about what it was. It was an escalation to some extent. It hurt innocent people. I'm not going to act like it was the greatest, most great. Like I'm not, that stuff has got to chill out. Like they can't admit any fault ever, and it's everyone else's fault all the time. Like Ben Shapiro will literally accuse people of blood libel. Israel killed, a truck of like aid workers that are connected probably to the U.S. Actually, they're definitely connected to the U.S. government because it's that Chef Jose Andres guy who literally works in the government. But, Chef Jose Andres, which is America, or at least an American person or an American affiliated person with his aid people, Israel just killed them. And guess what happened? Nothing. Ben Shapiro goes, it's blood libel. Oops. You're hateful if you say that we did it purposely. I don't know that they did. I'm not, but maybe they did, or maybe they didn't. No, never. You've never done anything purposely. Never in your life. Everything you've ever done is safe, clean, precise, and you've never done anything bad purposely. So which country is his loyalty to? Can't say. It's like I can criticize openly the America and say America did things purposely, right? I do it all the time. But I can't say another country ever did anything purposely. I have to say every attack they ever did was the safest, nicest, greatest thing ever. Like this is what we're dealing with. But this is the fake. And I don't know a more politically correct way to say this, so I'm not going to do it. The left wing are the Bolsheviks and the right wing are the Zionists. I said this to people 4 years ago. That's why the media started slandering me. Fake Republican Zionist media. They've been slandering me for 5 years because I figured out what's going on. The left are the Bolsheviks, the right are the Zionists. Bing, bing, bing. You lose either way. I'm voting for Trump. He's the better option. But it would be nice to have a U.S. president that could negotiate and that we didn't get such a short end of a stick. Because if you're telling me you're telling me that all of these people are terrorists, why would we take them in? Like if you watch Fox News and you watch all of these Zionist media on the right, you're convinced like all these Palestinians, whatever, they're all terrorists. Then why would conservatives in Israel be writing op-eds in Wall Street Journal telling Europe and America to take in the refugees? Because they don't like you the same way you like them. It's just the truth. They don't give a shit about you. If they can hurt you at the benefit of them, they'll do it every single time, unapologetically. They don't care. And then they'll turn around and say, we just did the greatest thing ever, and you're hateful if you don't think that was great. It is what it is. So, I don't really I'm not going to sit here and there's people that are like, don't do this, don't do that. Dude, war sucks. But with Israel and Lebanon and Ukraine and Russia, if it were just them fighting each other, I could have an opinion about it, but I'm not funding it. I'm funding the Ukraine war, and one of the soldiers from the Ukraine war tried to kill the guy that I want to vote for. So I kind of give a shit now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not somebody that likes to insert myself into war and act like I know it all. I don't. But we've given hundreds of billions of dollars, upwards of $1 trillion to Ukraine, and one of the soldiers there tried to kill Trump. So now I'm a little fucking pissed. And with Israel, we've given them hundreds of billions of dollars. Okay. But I can't even talk about it without being slandered all the time. And it's whatever. But it's like, it's like both of these relationships are just wildly unfair. It doesn't make me anti the country. But, everything that Israel does is going to get America in trouble because we're the ones funneling money to them or funding them. And this is the funniest thing about all of that. I wouldn't say it's funny, but it's like people will say like, oh, we don't even need your money. Okay, then stop taking it. But they want our money. So they keep taking the money. But then when we have an opinion about it, they get all pissy and they're like, oh, you're just being hateful. It's like, do it on your own dime. You have a bank. Why don't you just print? Why is America the imploding economy where it's like, oh, let's just keep printing money? We're in debt. We don't have money. It would be like if your boy's a crackhead and he's $1 million in debt because he just smokes crack all the time and he's like borrowing money, he has no money to borrow. He owes everyone else money. That's America. How? Because people running America don't give a fuck about America. They're like, whatever, just keep printing the money, keep screwing the people over there. And you'll find this with any other country. Like, I'm not going to talk that much about Israel and Lebanon. It's tough. The Lebanese people have been there for a while. Israel is there. Like, people are fighting in the Middle East forever. Like, it's going to suck. It's going to suck. But in general, if you look at who the media demonizes, and when I say the media, now I'm not just talking about the liberal Bolsheviks, I'm also talking about the Republican Zionists. Which countries do they usually demonize? And then the one who doesn't demonize Russia is the one that they're trying to kill. And I'm not saying they are trying to kill him. I'm just saying, like, you know, people don't like the fact that Trump is not completely controlled by the uniparty. So I personally believe that the second one who tried to kill Trump, I believe that he was brainwashed by the TV. I think he worked for the government. Like, he was overseas with foreign governments, and like, how was he not? I'm not saying he did it for them, but like, he was connected to the government. You can't just hire people from Afghanistan to fight a war in Ukraine and the US government doesn't know. Of course they know about that. How could they not? They know every single tweet that they see. So how could they not know that? But in general, it's like, I think that guy was a useful idiot. And it's just like, he hates so much because they got him fighting this war that, he's willing to do stuff. Like, I don't think he did it independently personally, but we'll never know. But in general, it's like, if you listen to the Bolshevik media and the Zionist media, which is the left and right, they all demonize China, all of them. I'm not saying China's your best friend. I'm not Chinese. It's not really a nation for me. Hopefully they like me there. Maybe they don't. I have no idea. I'm not James Harden or Michael Jordan. They love basketball. They love certain rappers and stuff. I don't think they even know who I am. But in general, it's like, I don't hate the Chinese people, and I'm not Chinese. So I can't really, like, it's not. But the reason that both of the media hate China is because it's a nation. It's a nation built off an ethnicity that has not been completely infiltrated. It's China. It's for Chinese people. They operate on their own and they have strong national pride. Russia is not communist, but they have strong national pride. It's a nation of people that cannot be infiltrated, that have a certain identity. Every other country that we're allies with, do people not notice? It's like all our allies are failing. The one ally that we've always had, that always had a good government, Poland, now they just elected some puppet, and they're probably going to go down the drain too. It's like, why are all of America's allies going down the drain? Why are they losing their nation, losing their identity? Like, why is that happening to America's allies? It's because our allies aren't our allies. And I'm not just talking about one country or Ukraine. I'm talking about people like Mike Pompeo. Mike Pompeo, who is a Republican, who's Trump's, Secretary of State. He goes on television and he says, we have a liberal world order. He called it literally a liberal world order. I watch Republican media. So do you. Do we want to be liberal? I don't anymore. Do you want to be liberal? No. So why would the head Republican in charge of our foreign policy, why would he be spreading liberalism to the whole world? He says America is pushing a liberal world order because they are. And I'm not trying to bother people, but the Bolsheviks and the Zionists, they have almost identical foreign policies. They have little differences, but the Bolsheviks on the left and the Zionists on the right, they come together and they push a liberal world order. And then everybody in Europe just has to be faker and gayer and fatter. And not literally, I guess America's the fattest country, but semi-jokes aside, it's like they're pushing this narrative. It's like, what's happening to England? What's happening to France? France isn't France anymore. England's not. Well, I wonder why. Oh, it's just the left. You think it's just the left. That's why it never ends, because it's both parties. And, I personally do think that even though Trump is kind of sold out, there's an element of him that isn't completely sold out. And that's why they hate Trump. They hate Trump because he's not completely sold out. And this is, if you're 90% sold out, it's not 100% like Kamala. It's not 100% like Paul Ryan. So they say, get out of the way, Trump. You're 99. Like, Trump tries so hard to fit in and sell out, and they still never accept him. He has people on stage with him like Lindsey Graham. It's like, bro, get that guy away from you. Lindsey Graham is not a friend you want near you these next 2 months, especially after all the stuff's happening. Don't have people like that around. Have people around like your son and people that love you and care about you. Not the Lindsey Grahams of the world. Because, Lindsey Graham, as much as he'll act like he's on your side, he's one of the architects of what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. There's no way he wants Trump to do what Trump wants to do in Russia. So, but anyway, when it comes to other countries, despite what people will say and how they'll falsely hear what I'm saying, I don't, what Israel does and what Lebanon does and what Iran does, it's very complicated stuff. It's easy to be an armchair quarterback and say, don't do this, do that. That's easy. I don't live in Israel. I don't live in Lebanon, and I don't live in Iran. I live in America. I talk about it from an American perspective. I'm not asking to completely abandon NATO or our allies, but I do think that our country is so obviously compromised that we seem to have no leverage in any situation. Israel's very intelligent. Israel's very well connected. They have a lot of money, a lot of power, and they own a lot of patents in a lot of things, technology, medicine. Like Israel is a very competent and, technologically advanced country. I'm not asking to just it's not happening. America's so compromised at this point. Like it's not even going to happen. But in general, it's like, I'm just asking for like a fair deal. I don't know if it's even possible though. Like, can we come to the table and be like, we'll do this, but in return, can we get something out of it? Or can you stop doing this? But I don't know if that's even possible, because it seems to me like our government is it has so little leverage in that situation. Like if another country killed American aid workers or media members or whatever, like it would be like, what? We got to start a war with that country. If it happens in that country, it's like Americans are afraid to talk about it. I think like AP, which is, as deep state as it gets in America, AP, didn't they have their offices like blown up or something? And like they could barely even talk about it. They didn't even want to tweet about it. It's like, it's so obvious who has the power there. Like, dude, everybody's afraid to say anything to a certain country. And I understand why. They have total leverage over America. But you can't even say that. That's the craziest part, is like, I'm not complaining or like, crying about it. I'm just analyzing it. That's what I do. I do news analysis, but you can't even say how they have leverage over your country and why. There's many reasons why, but you'll be called hateful for explaining all the reasons they have leverage over America. I could get into like all of it, but, every situation they get in, it's going to affect America because we're funneling money to it, funding them and backing them. So, if same thing with like Ukraine, if we sent 300, 400, 500, 600, I don't know, $1 billion to Ukraine, and somebody who was in America, who served in Ukraine, came back to America and almost killed Donald Trump, don't you think we should get as much information as we possibly can out of them? Like these countries that are our allies, they're so emboldened to do anything. It's so embarrassing. America, I love America, but we're such an embarrassment of a country. Liberals are embarrassing, but even like Republican Zionists are embarrassing because they're just like, blah, 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 blah. It's like, aren't you embarrassed? I'm not asking you to abandon your ally, but it's like, get some leverage or like have a spine. Like you guys are like, so, with Ukraine, we send so much money to them. No, these people think they could just do whatever they want because they can do whatever they want. It's like, yeah, give me $500 billion and we'll have one of our military guys go back to the US and almost kill one of your presidents. And we'll say nothing about it. We'll just keep demanding more money and more weapons and we'll keep fighting more wars. Like, isn't that a huge red flag? No, that's not a big red flag. Has there been, has the U.S. government at all even like tried? They're not even talking about it. I mean, DeSantis is a little bit, but it's like, it's the biggest story. We're trying to have an election here, and somebody that served in the Ukrainian military and recruited for them and did New York Times interviews, tried to kill Donald Trump. And we've given you $500 billion and nothing, nothing. We don't get anything out of that. Dude, no one cares. America's a joke. They're like, whatever. And I don't know what it says, but I don't even know if he's telling the truth. But Trump was on stage with RFK, and he says that he wants to release the JFK files. The first time he was in office, he did not. He released so little of that it was like not even anything. But it did show the JFK file release that Trump did release. It showed that the U.S. government was willing to sink a boatload of Cubans, real or simulated, in order to increase tension with Fidel Castro to push their agenda. That's CBS News, okay? It's not InfoWars. I'm not making it up. You Google JFK files, CBS, stage bombings in Miami, and you could find out on the first leak of the JFK files that Trump leaked or declassified. He didn't leak them. He declassified them. It said that the U.S. government was willing to stage bombings in Miami or sink a boatload of Cubans. Okay? You could imagine what else is going on if that. But then if you say anything about it, they call you a conspiracy theorist. At this point, and I want to be clear, every conspiracy theory is not true. There's a lot of idiots out there. Constantly people are wrong. They're like, that guy was in a BlackRock commercial. He wasn't. Everybody's wrong about that. Do your research. The first shooter was in a BlackRock commercial. The second one was in an Azov battalion commercial, not a BlackRock commercial. When you lie about stuff like that, it just makes everybody look dumb. Every conspiracy theory is not true. But if you tell the truth about anything, they'll call it a conspiracy theory. It's the same thing about what I'm talking about. It's like literally in Lebanon, and this is hard to talk about, but it is what it is. In Lebanon, how did they plant bombs on all these pagers? They probably had double agents working for their intelligence in Lebanon. Okay. Do they do that in any other country? Obviously, they don't do the bombs in the other country like the same way they do there. I hope not, but you can't even say that in America. It's like you have Republican Zionists passing anti-Semitism speech laws that make it an anti-Semitic speech offense to suggest any single person of a group is working for a foreign country or even has loyalty to another country. You can't say anything. I'm not saying you should go around accusing people falsely, but it's like America is so controlled that we have speech laws for a foreign country, one race and one religion, where it literally stops you and determines that you're being hateful if you suggest that somebody, like, imagine if there's 10 Chinese agents working with Democrats and they just keep calling you anti-Chinetic every time you suggest that's a Chinese agent. Like, it's just so obvious. Like, it's so obvious what's going on. But anyway, when it comes to, I forget even what I was talking about before. Let's see. Oh yeah, with the JFK files. I don't know that Trump's really going to release those because he didn't the first time. But I don't think if that's released, there's no way they're going to let that be released. Let's just put it that way. Because if what people think is true, that's never going to be shown to the public. And all you have to do is do your research into what's already public available. You don't even have to make this like conspiracy theory in your head. If you do the research into that shooter and who shot the shooter and what, like, who he talked to, and like there's all sorts of transcripts out there already where he like tells you essentially like why he did it. Most of the public has no idea. I don't think they're going to let that be released to the public. So if Trump really wants to release the JFK files, there's going to be a lot of people, especially around Trump, that do not want that to happen. That would ruin a lot of things, you know. It would ruin a lot of understandings, and that's what's going on with a lot of. And this is the sad part. I'll just say this, and then I'll move on. As an American citizen, I'm not self-hating. I'm not liberal. I'm not crying because of my skin color, saying the American flag's bad and we're such pillagers. Blah blah blah. I'm not a self-hating American. So, but I'm not a liar. Okay. Like if I play in a basketball game and I have 50 turnovers, I'm not going to act like I had 0 turnovers. I'm not delusional. Okay. I'm confident, but I'm not a liar. I love America. It's embarrassing that we're so dishonest right now. It's embarrassing because it doesn't mean every other country is telling the truth, but it's like our nation, our culture, our media, it's all so stupid and fake. Where if you even go near the truth, everybody gets mad at you. It's just like we're an embarrassment of what we used to be. If you do your research in the 50s and the 60s, America always had propaganda. Every country does. American propaganda was pro-America. Go look at some of the cartoons they used to make that were propaganda. It was all nationalistic, pro-America, probably because they wanted you to die in war for bankers or something. But in general, it's still like the propaganda was like family, America, wife, you know, the nation. Now the propaganda is like destroying the nation, destroying the family, destroying the culture, destroying the people, completely, replacing the people. But you can't say it's replacing, because then they say it's racist, even though it's literally true. They're doing it for votes and power, among other things. But in general, it's like our country hates, like, it's so bad. And I'm not saying it's the worst place to live, but like, we're going downhill so fast because like whoever's running the country hates our country. They hate our people. They hate families. They're like, think about the shit that they're pushing to kids. They're like, hate yourself, take pharmaceutical pills, be obese, and, don't get married until you're 80 or never get married. It's like, listen, I'm not married, but it's not like my proudest moment. It's like, I probably should eventually. I've been busy and working and stuff, and my life went the way it went. I'm not going to complain. But it's like, I'm not going to sit here and act like, I'm not like, yeah, let's all get 65 and be single. It's like, or let's not do that. Like, that's not a desirable thing to do. And just as somebody who's lived and worked alone, one of my goals for next year is to not work alone, because I've worked alone for 10 years. It's not the greatest thing to do. It's like, be alone and fat and addicted to pharmaceuticals. That's the propaganda they're spitting out. It's like, shit happens in life, and you should be sympathetic to everybody and what they're going through. But to push that to the people, to the kids, to the families, like anti-family, anti-America, and like that. So right off the bat, it's like, whoever's doing this hates us. But then you can't say it, because it almost, especially Republicans are kind of starting to get it. But like in the 2000s, it was Republicans who got so mad at you because they were like, you hate America. What are you, Bin Laden? And you're like, what the hell are you talking about, bro? I love America. But if we're being coaxed into a war, pushed into a war against our interests now, after, and this is I wouldn't say it's karma or irony. I'm not trying to say that, but a lot of, not all, because there's some Republicans here who got it, but most Republicans, they bought hook, line, and sinker into the same propaganda they reject now. And there's consequences to everything you do. And this is what I want to say too. It's not to hate on people, but if you support the Republican war agenda for 15 years and then you figure it out, that's great that you figured it out with Donald Trump because he told you the truth about it, but you still did it for 15 years and you have to deal with those consequences. Nobody wanted to talk about the lockdown and the money printing, but Trump was printing way too much money and everybody's complaining about the economy now. Yes, it's Biden's fault, but it's also Donald Trump's fault and nobody wants to talk about that. So it's like, I'm starting to think that people are dumb. And like dumb people get dumb results. And that's why I'm not like complaining about foreign countries. I'm just telling you the truth of what's going on. I'm not complaining because if you're that dumb, smarter people are going to take advantage of you. They're going to trick you. And if you're not smart enough to figure it out, then you're as dumb as they think you are. It's your fault. It's not their fault. There's no one else to blame. It's your fault. So American Republicans, for some reason, like, it's not like, I'm not trying to be mean, but it's like the party of like, drink beer, go to Coachella, just yell Donald Trump, don't raise your kids, just yell Trump again, watch Sean Hannity, believe Mark Levin, watch Ben Shapiro, and, tell yourself that you deserve the country that you want because you want the country you used to have. And it's like, that's not how the world works. You don't get the country you want because you want it. That's why I don't agree with most Republican podcasts. They're like, you deserve it. No, you don't. You screwed up for 15 years. You bought into the fake wars. You're paying for it now. Donald Trump printed more money than Obama did during COVID. You're paying for it now. That's how it works. You want results, you got to figure out what's going on. But that's the problem, in my view, with the Republican Zionists. It's not that they're Zionists. I don't care. It's just their news reporting is so like backwards, where it's like you're never going to figure it out and you're never going to get to where you want to get because you're not telling the full story. You could support another foreign country. That's fine. You could even want to support them militarily. That's fine. Or let them defend themselves or let them blow people up. You could do all that. But if you're not telling the truth about how it affects your country, then you're not going to get the results you want. You're going to get the results you deserve. You understand? This is just an example. If you're fighting, and this is an example that's literally based in reality, okay? If you're fighting all these wars in the Middle East and you believe Republican media like Murdoch media or whatever, and they're telling you we're doing this because we're fighting Bin Laden and we're beating up the GOAT terrorists or whatever, and then you're doing all this stuff, right? And then you realize that you create a refugee crisis, right? You create a refugee crisis of millions of people that you don't want because you just called them all terrorists and you think they're all goat herders or whatever. But you assume, oh, the people that created those refugees, they love America. They're nationalists. They support our country. They don't have loyalty to another country. They love America. if you're wrong, and then now you're getting all the refugees that you didn't want, the refugees from Africa, the refugees from the Middle East, which happened to Europe and America, and it's changing the landscape of Europe and America. It's going to, completely shift countries in Europe, and they'll never be the same at this point. But the liberal is just dumb, not even worth talking about, because they're just completely lost in this conversation. But the Republican, you're following fake opposition who's telling you one thing and then funneling the people that you say you don't want to your country. And it's still happening now. Your same allies still want to do the same stuff because they don't care about you. So if you can't figure out the puzzle that's being played, you actually, like, this country will get destroyed. And it's not just because of the left. They're not helping, but it's also because of the right. Like, that's their foreign policy. They go to other countries, they make them liberal. They completely reject your version of what you think is morality and religion. They spread liberalism to a foreign country that's rejecting it, that respects Jesus Christ, that wants to have a dynamic between men and women. They just bring filth, degeneracy, and completely upside down world to them, just like they're doing to you. And then when they screw up and everybody hates them, they funnel all the refugees to America and Europe. Why are they doing that? Because they don't give a shit about you. It's not just the left. The left doesn't care about you, obviously, but the right is the same. And, Trump seems a little different. He's not the brightest bulb in the box all the time, but at the same time, it's like, that's why they hate Trump so much. He's the people that'll tell you Trump's not sold out. They're wrong. Trump never sold out. Lying. He would never take donor money. Lying. He did a good job during the pandemic. Wrong. Trump has done a lot of bad things, but the problem with Trump is he's 90% sold out, or 80% sold out, or 70% sold out, but he's not 100% sold out. And that bothers people that want 100% sold out. Same with Elon Musk. Is Elon Musk perfect? Of course not. But is Elon Musk 100% sold out like Facebook, or 100% sold out like Google? No. So they hate Elon Musk. Anybody that won't completely get dominated, they have a problem with. To me, that's enough reason to vote for Trump, but I don't know. So certain things about him really bother me, but he's a better dice roll in my opinion. But it's up to people to figure this stuff out. Like, when it comes to RFK, hopefully he gets involved in the food supply, but like, our food supply has been basically poisoned for 50 years and no one cares. Like, that's not even an issue. Nobody asks about, like, we got to get smarter. We got to teach ourselves to talk about this stuff. Of course, more people are, but like, that's the travesty of politics, is like, they get you in these narratives and then you're not even looking at your own food. Like, it's a disgrace that Europe can have 5 ingredients and we have 5,000 ingredients. Like, the people running the country hate you. They literally, like, in this country, so it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it's the same people giving you the cure that are giving you the disease in a way. It's like, they know all the shit they're giving you is going to cause all these diseases, but then they have the cure to the disease, or the pill that you'll have to take for the rest of your life. So they're like, yeah, you might get, like, it's so obvious in this country. It's just completely dominated by the pharmaceutical industry and people that don't give two shits about you. But the people in this country don't care about themselves enough to like reject it. Because once 50 to 80% of the population rejects it, it all goes away. So someone said Facebook is just Fedbook. That's pretty funny. But yeah, I'm going to just answer a few questions and then I'm going to bounce. But when it comes to the P. Diddy situation, I would say, let's see what happens, because I watched them sweep Jeffrey Epstein under the rug. I watched them, blame Bill Cosby for everything and nobody paid attention. So I'm not saying P. Diddy's not Bill Cosby. I think Bill Cosby was not nearly as well connected as P. Diddy, but P. Diddy was somebody, and I'm curious to see how much they let out and whatnot. When it comes to the Israel-Lebanon attack, here's all I'll say. There's good people in Israel and there's good people in Lebanon, and I truly believe that. I don't want either side to attack each other, but that's not the world we live in. And, I think the Zionist media, and I'm not saying the other side doesn't do it to Israel or anything. There's shitty people in progressive media, obviously, also. But the Zionist media, and that's in both parties to some extent, they're painting it as everyone's a terrorist. Like the 70 million people in Iran, terrorists. All the Lebanon. Like, if you ever, and I don't want to go, but if you ever went to Lebanon, it's too dangerous now. You would realize that people are not that different. They're not crazy. They're not all terrorists. And these are some of the people having to deal with all this shit. So, I mean, it's a product of where they live and their government and the beef they're in, etc. But, Zionist media will just convince you that every kid they kill, every woman they kill, every nurse that gets blown up or whatever, either they'll gaslight you into thinking it never happened, or they'll just be like, oh, well, they're adjacent to Hezbollah. You shouldn't have been hanging out with the terrorists. It's like that. If that same logic were applied to America, they would consider us all terrorists, So I'm not saying there's no bad people in the world, but you got to be pretty dumb at this point to think that our side is like the perfect, amazing side. Like, you literally have to be like borderline, like mentally challenged. Like, this, if our side's so great, why are they not instilling a culture of like love and family and unity and healthy food and good lifestyle? No, they're running around trying to basically target everybody who loves the country, who's not a total degen, and call you a bigot and a terrorist. So if that's what they're doing here, God only knows what they're doing in other countries. It's not good. So I'm not demonizing either side or saying it's your fault or your fault, but I just personally, the only thing that I would say, because like war is war, and I'm not going to like say you can't do this, or you can't do that. It's not up to me. I just can't listen to the Ben Shapiros of the world be like, this was the greatest attack in 21st century, and it was so nobody. It's like, bro, they blew up a bunch of pagers, killed some people that you wanted to kill, killed some people that weren't that, and you don't know where they were at the time. So it blew up in public spaces and hurt a lot of people that had nothing to do with it. It is what it is. It's not the greatest, safest attack in modern history. It's also probably not the worst attack in modern history, but if I were to put it on a scale of like, is it the safest attack in modern history or is it not? I wouldn't put it towards the safe side. I would think a safe side would be like drone striking, like, the head of the terrorist organization and not killing anyone else, not blowing up hundreds of pagers in public and injuring hundreds of people. Like, I don't think that's really, and they don't even know for sure that at the time it was on the person that they thought it was on. But, like if they were honest about that, I could be like, yeah, I'm not going to demonize an attack at war. It's a war. But like, they're acting like it's the greatest, safest thing. It's like, dude, this is why so many people are not agreeing with that, because it's like we're being gaslit right in front of our own eyes. But when it comes to Lebanon, Iran, Israel, I think Israel wants America to push harder. And like, this is the frustrating part, I would say. And I understand Israel cares about themselves. They'll do whatever they have to do to do what they need to do for themselves. They don't care if it hurts America. They don't care if it hurts anybody. That's how they think. I'm not going to say for sure, but that's how I think. They think. Anyway, with that being said, it's like America, if you are loyal to America, we are in a Ukrainian-Russian war right now. It's not the greatest time to get involved in another war heavily, right? But with Israel, I'm trying to say this in a nice way that's not going to get me in trouble. I don't think they care that our economy is not that great. I don't think they care that our people here are suffering. I don't think they necessarily care that America's in a two-front war that we can't really win. And like, they want what they want for their country. So I think they want to drag us into a war to help them with Iran and Lebanon and all these other people, Hezbollah, etc. And it's like, it might be good for them, because if it hurts us, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? That's just the reality. And like, America is not that country. We're not doing that to our other allies. We're completely compromised. So it's like, of course, our country is going to go downwards, because we're being run by politicians who are so sold out that they don't serve our country. The Ukraine war does not serve our country unless there's some underlying thing with the petrodollar that I don't understand, or some other hidden point. Like, that war is not helping us. And timing is of the essence. It's like, of all times right now, we're going to go fight another war in another country with a group of people. It's a terrible time for America. But, I don't know that our politicians really care that much, or maybe they do. We'll see. But, I would love for the fighting to stop. It just doesn't seem like it's the case. And every escalation in Ukraine and every escalation in Lebanon and Israel, it's not only going to affect Israel and Lebanon and the people there, and Ukraine and Russia and the people there, it's also going to affect us because we're involved in that. And, I guess that's the pros and the cons of being in a big country. Like America's that country that everybody looks at like, whoa, they're one of the biggest, strongest countries with the biggest military and a huge economy. And I guess that's part of what we have to do. I guess we have to get involved in every war. We can't just like chill. But yeah, it's gonna affect us. I'm gonna read some comments. Someone said we need to focus on America. We do, but that's it's tough because our politicians, like, it's the culture thing in America is making it almost impossible. Like everyone could have a difference of opinion if everyone generally cared about America, but that we don't. So it's like you have the left. And I want to say this too. I know this is not really on topic, but I've been thinking about this for a while. There's this whole refugee situation, and they're bringing in millions of people illegally and legally. The legal ones, they're doing it because they can get these people to vote eventually. So the Democrats are flooding neighborhoods, flooding swing states, and Elon Musk is all over it because he's smart enough to figure this out. And he's like, they're flooding them with legal immigrants to then let them vote in a couple of years. And then Republicans are never going to win in elections again. I had some guy in my comments, I appreciate the inspiration, but he's like, I think we should make all of the legal immigrants that they're bringing, we should give them citizenship and a pathway. And it's like, here's the thing. That's a very nice thing to do, but you got to think from a game theory perspective. This is why the Democrats win no matter what happens. Because if they bring 5 or 10 million people here, a million people here, that they know that 90% of them are going to vote for Democrat, and they know it's bad for the country, they know it's bad for the economy, they know it's bad for the local, like they know that they're fucking over everybody in America in 1,000 different ways, every community, but it's good for them for power, right? They do it. And then if these loser Republicans, like the one in my comments, like, oh, let's just make them all legal. Why would the Democrats stop doing it? At this point, and no offense, you deserve to be replaced. Like, I hope that you're kicked out of your house for another person because you're too pathetic to even live there, And I don't really want that to happen, but it's like Republicans like that. It's like, yeah, you're going to lose. And and then you're going to be crying like, what happened to my country? It's like, you happened to your country. You're pathetic. Like, let the other guy move in and take your stuff. But it's like, you can't, like, that's what the Democrats do. They make these huge moves. And then people on the right are like, well, we'll just, and why would they stop doing it then? Every time they get in office, they can just do it and then you'll allow it and then you'll flip it and then you'll never win an election again. That's what they're doing. And, some of it is like evil genius where they just overwhelm it. It's like if they bring in 15 million people, it's almost impossible to send 15 million people back. Some of them are this, some of them are that. So then Trump gets in and maybe he sends back 2 million people, yet 5 million more people come across. This is what the Democrats are doing. So it's like when you got people on your own side that are like, let's just keep everyone. It's like, okay, now, like, if that's the case, I'm fine with it. But like, never talk about politics again. You lose, Democrats win. Why is California a one-party state? It's been this way for 20 years. Ronald Reagan, the hero of Republicans, just like Trump, selling you out and ruining everything. But he did a certain what was it, like the amnesty bill? Brought a couple million people here, switched the demographics, statistics happened, and now Republicans can't win California. Every state is like that. You don't name a state like Texas is turning more blue. Georgia's turning more blue. Pennsylvania is a swing state. Name another state besides Florida, and DeSantis is the only one who knows what he's doing. Yet everyone hates him, but whatever. I understand why, but it's like every other state, it's either deep blue, you're never winning, or it's red turning to blue. They're importing people and then they're flipping the demographics of these neighborhoods because they know the votes. Oh, I lost that neighborhood with 100, or I lost that state with 100,000 votes. Let's bring in 1 million people from this country and give them stuff that we know 80% of them are going to vote for us. And then we'll never lose that state ever again. So, Trump has a nearly impossible task. I would hate to be the guy because if he did what actually needed to be done, they're gonna freak out, and he might do it, he might not, but it's like that's how they work. They do things where even if you win, you lose. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you can win the election, but you're still gonna lose. Like, you can win this, but we overwhelmed you so much. Like when Trump was in office, there were more border crossings than Obama. It's not to say Trump did a bad job, but when Obama was in, they didn't have that plan. Once Trump got in, they flooded the border. Even though Trump is more pro border security, he didn't do a good job with border security. He did a better job than Biden did. And then it's like, so that's the escalation. Like there's barely anybody coming across. Then Trump comes in. If you look at the year that Trump was in, it was way worse than the Obama years. It's not because Trump's worse than Obama. That's just how the Democrats operate. And then once Biden got in, it's like open the floodgates. Like they're fucking up this country so bad. It's so bad. And then they're not only doing it illegally, they're also doing it legally. They're like, let's bring in 5 million people from these companies, plant them in swing states, give them stuff, and then they know that Republicans will never win an election again. Trump knows that. Elon Musk is talking about it. I just thought it was crazy. Some guy was like, let's let everyone, and it's like, bro, I'm not saying people can't come here legally, but if you have a political party that's importing people to make it a one-party country, you're never going to win an election again. You're never going to win an election again. And that's the same thing with like refugees and all this stuff. I am strongly a believer of you get what you deserve, not what you want. Myself, I've done a lot of great things. I've made mistakes in my life like everybody, but I don't sit around and say, oh, I deserve this, I deserve that. Like my game plan for next year, when it comes to my business and stuff, it's not sit around and feel sorry for what I could have done 3 years ago, or, oh, this person wouldn't hire me. I've told you who wouldn't hire me, or I've told you who, never would hire me because of my foreign policy, or you could just see it's not, I don't need to be hired. I'm a CEO. I'm just saying like, I'm down to work with the right people. But in this industry, there's a game going on that people don't understand. So they're going to allow people like Matt Walsh to be there because Matt Walsh will never, cross the line of what he really thinks about our relationship with a foreign country. So he gets to make the money and stay there, and he knows that, and everybody does. But anyway, it's like in general, I don't sit around. I'll tell you what I think about stuff, but I never feel sorry for myself because there's nothing to feel sorry about. I'm blessed. I'm grateful, and everything I've gotten, I've earned. And, by God's grace, and everything I didn't is my fault. Like, I don't feel like, oh, I should have this or that. Like, I really shouldn't. I have exactly what I built and what I made. And, if I want more or I want something else, I got to work for it. I think the same thing about our country. And this is a point that I say a lot, but I feel like it's so profound because nobody else says it in Republican media. Like, they'll tell you, you deserve this because you're voting for Trump, or you deserve this because you're on the right side. And if you go to the rally and donate to us, we're going to make it this great. And it's like, sure, I'm voting Republican, but what they don't tell you is like there's pieces to the puzzle that they're not telling you or they're misleading you about. And if you never put those pieces of the puzzle in, you're always going to lose. So it's like, everybody wants this like country that it's like, it's just not going to happen, because you got to get to the core of like why. And I'm not saying this is the only reason. There's Democrats, there's liberals, there's different religious groups bringing in people and this and that. But like, if you can't figure out from this, like when I saw this, I was like, it made me embarrassed for every Republican leader. Like if a Republican leader wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal and said, let's let millions of Palestinians live in Israel, right? Imagine they did, let's let them be refugees in Israel. Do you think the conservative party in Israel would just let a Republican politician say that? I mean, they could say it, but there would be some backlash, or at least like probably like some public, like, yo, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, why'd you say that? Or like some sort of communication. Maybe not. Maybe they just say that and nobody would give a shit. I have no idea. But it's like when I saw the conservative party in Israel write an op-ed in our newspaper, it'd be like me writing an op-ed in their newspaper. They wrote an op-ed in an American newspaper and said, here's why Europe and America should take all these refugees. If you can't figure that out, what did they say of the people in Palestine? They don't like them, or at least they say that they're not, there's a lot of terrorists in there and they're not good. And we got to, okay, sure. And on top of whether they're good people or not, it doesn't even matter. We got too many people in America already. Like, we're being overwhelmed. Why would they write a newspaper article in America trying to say, you take them and Europe take them? You don't think that played a role in why America and Europe took so many refugees in general? It's not the only reason. There's a lot of groups and a lot of organizations, but this is what I'm trying to tell people. If you're a Republican and you worship a country and a group of people that is trying to bring the people that you don't want in your country to your country, you're going to get them every time, And I'm not asking you to like be hateful or anything. It's just like, pay attention and like notice these things and have an opinion about it. You know, if everybody, like every Republican media that I see is like won't talk about that. They literally, like, I've never seen anything like some of like the joy over the pager attack, dude. I'm all cool with people being cool with it for a war thing, but like like Jeremy Boring of Daily Wire, it's like the dude's like drooling over it. He's like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. It's like, bro, I've never seen someone so like America's done stuff. Like I never seen you that happy over it. Like, it's just weird, bro. Like, it's not only an ally, it's like we are completely subservient, where it's like you'll drool and act like that's the greatest thing. Have you countered that? Have you countered them or had an opinion about them saying we should take all those refugees? No, they just ignore it and act like it never happened. So it's like, all I'm trying to say is everything in this country is happening for a reason. And if Republicans and conservatives can't figure out some of the things that they're not being told in other media companies, then there's no way it's going to stop. And it shouldn't stop. And we're not the victims of it not stopping. That's just, and I want to say this too, like, not to get off topic, but I think it's important when it comes to business or, you know, music, and I do a lot of things. I see the talent in everybody, right? I see the potential, but some people, they don't see the potential in themselves. Like they don't want to do what it takes to be successful. That's why I'm not a victim. Like this world, if you do what you need to do and you work hard, no one's going to stop you. They might say this or that, but there's no position. You could be the most beloved musician of all time and everybody will still hate you. Like there's going to be bad press. There's going to be bad opinions. You can't get successful without that. That's just part of it. But in general, like I always see the best in everybody, but they don't always see the best in themselves. And I could tell when certain people are blocking themselves, where I'm like, you could get that, but you're never going to get it based on your thought process. That's how I look at my business as well. Like I don't like to be around people that complain about things. I like to be around people that build, like I can complain about what I don't like in conservative media, but then I build what I do like. If I want a certain business model, I got to build it and work with the right people. That's exciting to me. I don't like people that are like, man. That's how I see a lot of, obviously the left is terrible. The left has nothing for me, but the right, it's a lot of that. It's like, we want this, but we're not getting it. And it's like, it's feeding into that, like, oh, you deserve it because you want it so bad. And that's the life that you remember from the 80s. And it's like, yeah, I want certain things too, but it's just, what I'm trying to say is it's not going to happen unless people think properly. You know, that's the only thing I'm trying to say. It's like everyone's telling you that these things are just going to happen because you really want it to happen. That was like the whole QAnon thing. Like Trump is pretty cool, but like QAnon is basically a bunch of like adults who have like no self-control that are like, what do I want to happen? That's everything I'm going to believe is going to happen. I mean, it's like saying Obama is going to save the world for black people because he's black. It's like, not really. He's just a puppet. And Trump is cooler than Obama, but like that whole conspiracy, and I'm not saying conspiracy in a bad way because it's a fake word at this point that's been abused, but you know, like it was like feeding into the laziest, most like dumbest people, where it's like, just think of what you wish was the world. That's what he's doing. You want this, that, like they'll convince people. They always say he's saving Israel for last. Bro, I mean, we'll see what happens, but I think Trump is, you know, he's very pro-Israel and he works with Israel, and that's just who he is. Like he's not saving it for last. He's just not ever going to do it because it's not like he's just not that guy. So it's like QAnon's like, what do you want to happen? Close your eyes and he'll do everything. And it's like, he might, I mean, but he also might not. So I just think a lot of what we're seeing on our side is like copium and just like, we'll get it because we really want it. But that's not how business works. That's not how life works. And that's not how our country works. Like you can't get a nation that succeeds without people having a successful mindset. And a lot of, you know, Republican is just like, all right, well, you're not left, so come over here and we'll promise you all these things. And it's like, it's fun, but I look at it so analytically, where I'm like, okay, we're so close, but it's like we're always going to be close. I used to use the example, it's been a year or two since I did it with like the COVID thing, where they put like a carrot in front of a donkey and it runs thinking it's going to get it, but the carrot's on a stick. Like it's like we got to problem solve. Someone said, none of the Project 2025 is bad to me, but I think it's better to have compassion for people who don't live the way I live. Well, the thing with Project 2025 is it's some sort of agenda. Trump has nothing to do with it, but the left is weaponizing it for their own advantage, and then Trump's trying to distance himself. I haven't even read it, but there's a way to have compassion without being dumb. Like I have compassion for a lot of people. This is what is going to be a rude awakening to a lot of people. Culture matters. Race is real. I'm not saying like, oh, you're that different. Like I love people from every country, but like it's not like if you put like 100%, if you switch Nigeria and you put 100% of white people there, and then you put all Nigerians in a certain city, like the cities will shift. It doesn't mean they're not like they'll change a little bit into each other a little bit, but in general, it's like look at Dearborn, Michigan. It's not Dearborn, Michigan 50 years ago. It's nothing like it used to be. Maybe you like that. Maybe you're Islamic. It's a charming place. You like the food there. Maybe you like their foreign policy or something. They're conservative-ish. It's just not what it was. So I think that's like with America, everybody can kind of see that, but the people running the country, they're just like, just bring everyone and throw them here and it's going to work. And it's like, that's just not how things work. Like people will figure that out, and it's going to be, I mean, people already know it. It's not racist. It's just like basic laws of reality. Like people can coexist and intermingle, but it has to be done in the proper way. It's like running a property. Like anyone can live there as long as everybody respects the basic rules. But if you have certain groups that can disrespect the rules and you can't say that they're doing it, and then then nothing's going to be that nice anymore. So America's a great country. It absolutely can work, but these demographic shifts that they're going to do, not only is it going to change like the voting patterns, but I think there's a lot of Republicans that don't want, I mean, most people understand at this point, but they're like, I don't want to seem like liberals will not go near this topic because liberals are so fake to me, because I know like privately they'd probably understand this because there's nothing racist or hateful about it. It's just like when you travel the world, it's different for different reasons, culture, people, like, that's just how it is. Like you go to Jamaica, you love it. It's their culture. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to be the same as Germany. Like it doesn't make you a hateful person to realize there's differences and pros and cons, etc. But like liberals, they won't even talk about this because they're so afraid of anyone hearing them talk about it. It's like really fake to me. Like I know you're smarter than this. You're just acting dumb. When it comes to the right, I think most Republicans are in this like, I don't care as long as people, vote my way and don't commit crimes and stuff. And I get it. Like on a personal level, I'm the same. It's like, I don't care. Like just be a cool person. And, but like statistics just show that that's not the case. Like if you import an entire other culture into your state and then the Democrats win every election for the rest of your life, it's not going to be the same state that you wanted it to be in your head. It's just not, culture, like having different cultures just dropped off in random places in the country. Like it's so far from the original vision of what was going on. When my family came from Poland and Puerto Rico and all these other countries, Poland, Puerto Rico, Italy, they came to America and they assimilated. It was like, you're coming to America. You got to be loyal to America, proud to be an American. At the time, it was demonized to even speak another language, speak English. I didn't grow up speaking Italian because they learned English to be in America. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish because my family, they were like, I'm assimilating. Okay. Now they just started bringing people in from other parts of the world and being like, it's going to be the same. And it's like, you want it to be the same, but it's not the same, but okay. And then now they're just like, we'll let them come over illegally. And then we'll import them from countries that are having crazy issues and just drop them off in the middle of like a freaking Amish neighborhood. It's like, what the heck? Like they're purposely destroying this country. It has nothing to do with being hateful. It's like there was always immigration and assimilation, but now they're just like, nah, forget everything anywhere. Let's just do it. Let's just plop them here, plop them there, do this there, do that there, and it'll all work out. I mean, okay, like it might be worse though. Can I say it's going to be worse? And they'll always play this game where they're like, when we do this, it's going to get so much better. It's like some people like Florida, some people like California, some people like Colorado. You might say Colorado's better than California. Someone might say, well, I like the beach better. The point that I'm getting to is it's debatable. It's debatable which state's better and which one is healthier and which one you like more, but not with immigration. You just have to say it's better. It's all better. Nothing in the world is that way. I could say I like this restaurant better than that restaurant. You could say you like a McDonald's hamburger better than Fuddruckers. You understand what I'm saying? It's like everything they do is a lie where it's like, we're going to do this and it's absolutely better in every way or else you're racist. It's like nothing in the world it goes under those terms. So why would this go under those terms? It's the same thing I say about like when people like Lex Friedman, he'll be like, don't talk about groups, talk about individuals. It's the dumbest, like it sounds smart to dumb people. That's Lex Friedman. He sounds smart to dumb people. But in general, it's like, apply that to anything in the world. Groups are not hateful and individuals does not make you intelligent. You like, that's not how it works. Like if I talk about the New York Giants, I'm not just 12 individuals on a football field. Some are black, some are white. They have nothing in common. They actually do have a lot in common, and grouping them together makes it easier to explain. They're all football players. They're all making millions of dollars. They're all the New York Giants. They're wearing the same jersey, working for the same team. Oh, am I being hateful? Of course not. Like you're an idiot if you just call them individuals on a field. But Lex Friedman wants you to believe that when it comes to the group that he constantly identifies for special goodies, that you're being hateful if you ever notice something that they're doing wrong. It's actually genius. Ben Shapiro does it too. His logic is everything that my group and the country I like does is perfect and amazing and it's flawless. And if you suggest there's any flaws to it, you're a terrorist or you're hateful or you're bigoted or you're anti-Semitic. It's genius. I mean, I'm not even mad at him. It's like, it's funny that so many like boomers believe it. They're dumb. He knows you're dumb, so he's going to take advantage of you. But it's like, yeah, of course there are hateful people that do too much of that. But it's like to be like, oh yeah, don't say it that way. Society, that's like saying, yeah, every immigration is amazing and none of it will negatively affect you. That's not what black people say in neighborhoods. They don't like gentrification. Some do, some don't. Why? Because it changes the neighborhood. It's not, it doesn't make you a hateful person. It's like, how does it change the neighborhood? If you want prices to be low, prices go up usually when gentrification happens and a bunch of white people start moving there. Maybe you don't want the prices to go up. That doesn't make you a hateful black person or a hateful person who lives in that neighborhood and you're Puerto Rican. It's just the reality of the situation. You don't want prices to go up. Those people moving in raise the prices. Maybe you just don't like them. You know, maybe you don't like the crime rate. And when they move in, the crime rate goes down and you like that. Things change. But the order we live under is like everything bad that we're doing is good. There's no nuance to it except for this one group that does everything perfect all the time, and suggesting they don't is a hate offense that is being passed through legislation to prove that they don't actually run or control at anything, because that's another hate speech offense. It's like, then how are they getting all the laws in their favor? I don't, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, how come Pakistanis don't have a Pakistani hate speech law? Because they don't have power in America. They own stuff, but they don't have like systemic power like that. Maybe like a few do. Let me see. Read a few more, and then I'm going to take off in like 10 minutes. So let's make it a good 10 minutes. Someone said there's no subjectiveness in their world. I like to talk about stuff like this because I'm not a hateful person, so I'm not really like afraid to talk about it. Like if you actually, there are people that have hate in their heart and you could like feel it, and then you're like, okay, like he doesn't want to talk about it because he knows if he talks about it, he's going to get out of it. Like this is my true stance. It'll never change. I don't hate any country. I really don't. Israel, I don't hate Israel. Palestine, I don't hate Palestine. Lebanon, I'm not a hater. Like me personally, I know there's great people in every country. So like no propaganda can get through to me. Like if you listen to Israeli propaganda or Zionist propaganda, they'll brainwash you to think that everybody Arab is doing terrorism and all of Lebanon's bad. If you went to Lebanon, you would feel so bad for what's happening because you'd realize how like you a lot of those people are and how not that crazy it is. You might not want to live there, but like you wouldn't hate the people there. And that goes with like every country, like there's good people in every country, but then there's some countries you'd visit where you're like, I wouldn't want to live here. Like most people feel that way in some countries, but I don't have trouble talking about it because it's not coming from a place of hate. Like I don't talk about groups to hate. I talk about groups because if you didn't group anything in your life, then like everything would be dumber. It's like going backwards in time. And a lot of the stuff that they do, especially liberals now, but even some Republicans, they're trying to like unravel intelligent things that we've done to make us like dumber. It's like the crime statistics are hateful. So now we're not going to keep statistics. Okay, we're going to get dumber. Or they'll say, oh, the climate statistics are definite. They've only been around for 90 years or 100 years. You look at some, I've done research into like Canada's temperature. Like they didn't keep the temperature in the 1800s and the 1700s. So you're just assuming that all these trends, like it's an 100-year trend, sure. But if you had the data for 500 years and it went like this, then maybe you would realize that it's cyclical. So, a lot of this stuff, it's just like word magic and they try to like shame you into thinking certain ways. I don't care. Like, I'm not going to be dumb and be like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to notice statistics and patterns and, I'm not going to group things. It's like, there are groups though. There's a way to talk about a group without blaming everyone of a certain, it's like there's groups doing this, but it's not everyone, like the Italian mafia was doing things. It's not all Italians, but to say it's not Italian would just be confusing because they are Italian. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what's going on now. It's like, you can't say they're this, but they are though. You definitely can't say it, but like they are, and not saying it doesn't mean like, well, they're individuals. Yeah, but there's 15 individuals doing the same thing with the same agenda for the same race and religion. Like that's what they're doing. It's not everyone doing it, but is like, there's something called a world blank Congress. There's one race and one religion that has a world Congress. Is it Italian? No. Maybe Italians have one, but it's like, can I not say that like it's not everyone doing it? Most people don't even know that it's a thing, but there's one there. It's like everybody wants you to not be able to like use words anymore. It's just like, I think that's the trick for like the millennials. They're like, if we scare them from using all the words, then they'll just do pharmaceutical pills and not want to have kids and like transgender themselves or something. I'm not saying that's like 100% what they're doing, but like these kids are probably so afraid to like say anything nowadays. So they're just like, we'll just listen to SZA and Jaden Smith. No, I'm just kidding. I just thought of them. I thought it was funny, but someone said I'm not a dude either. Show some respect. Well, I don't know what gender you are, but it's whatever. All right, a few questions and then we'll keep it somewhat short. It's an ideology. You can blame all that have that ideology. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but like I think you got to be accurate if you want to like blame, because I'm not blaming, I'm just talking about it. But there's certain religions where not everyone has the same ideology, and with that religion, it's also an ethnic group. So I don't know, I wouldn't say like blame everyone. It's like figure out what you're saying and then say it truthfully. But like I would say have some thought process behind it, because there's different sects and different people, and then there's people that are getting tricked. I think if you look at like Black America, for instance, if you could say that, like, I don't think everybody's in on some big conspiracy. They just like, they're raised to believe certain things, or they don't have a father and the media raises them, like you're raised by the culture and the environment and the music rather than, somebody that knows what they're talking about. So I think it's similar to, other groups too. They're raised to believe these things. And like, if that's pumped into your head for 20 years, then there's people that I don't think they like completely believe everything in the books you think they believe, but that's their team and they're listening to certain people, like say you're a Republican and you listen to like Dan Bongino, you'll probably end up having his foreign policy if you don't know anything else about foreign policy. Like it doesn't mean you're that invested in it, but you listen to a guy yell about certain countries enough, then you'll probably agree with him. And I don't listen to him enough to even know what his foreign policy is. I would guess he thinks that it's crazy that we're funneling money to, Ukraine, but he's totally fine with funneling money to Israel. That's my guess of what his foreign policy is, but I don't think every, person is that idealistic. I mean, some are, but I don't like to make grandiose statements and be like, they all are to blame because they all have the same ideology. I'm not blaming anybody. Even in this thing, I'm not blaming a country. I'm just talking about it. I'm not a warlord. I don't run America. I don't run the Middle East. Who am I to tell people what to do? It's not my job. But I haven't thought about it, and so that's how I think about these things. I'm not forcefully demanding that a country listens to me. Like, why would they listen to me? They're not going to. It would be almost like egotistical. It's like, do what I said now. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll get back to podcasting. It's like, okay. Someone said Bill Cooper said in his book Behold a Pale Horse that they will tell people to report to their local post office to be given New World Order instructions. I haven't read the whole book, but I don't know what you're referring to there, but I'll look into it. Thank you, Fishing Bob. I appreciate it. They recommended me. Well, don't tell them, because then they won't. Someone said Anomaly would be the nicest warlord. I don't know that I'm nice. Like, some people can perceive me being mean, but I think I'm fair. I think I'm nice. I think I'm fair, but I do draw a hard line, you know? In a society, like, you got to draw hard lines, because this is the truth about the whole world. Everybody's not going to do the right thing. Like, I'm not saying people are bad or whatever, but you go to like Haiti, for example, right? They've had a lot of issues, and people are talking about Haitians in America. There's a lot of great Haitians, right? And then there's some people that are not so great, like anywhere, but their culture is different than ours. What people would say is you could go to Haiti, and they've tried to do this, but they failed, or they stole money. I don't know what the West did. You could be like, if we give them all the things that America has, they'll be like America. That's not necessarily the case. Like, that's the bet that everyone's making. We could bring everyone here, we can give them everything, and then they'll build our schools and they'll do what we want. And they'll be just like us. Maybe not, though. Everyone's not exactly the same. Like, you're not going to get the same results. Like, if you go around the world, certain civilizations built certain things and certain civilizations didn't. You could have all sorts of theories on why, but I just don't agree with this whole like the open society type mentality, or the liberal mentality, or even in some cases like the conservative mentality is like, you think that's the case, but you're not really sure. Same with America. Like, America's always been an experiment, and it's becoming an even worse experiment. But in general, you're experimenting. Like, I like America. I appreciate it. I make the best of it. There's pros and cons to it, but it is an experiment when it comes to other countries and the ethnicity and the culture. Like, it's never really been done like this before. So it's just so arrogant of these people to be like, this is the way to do it. We're going to make all of it, Europe like this. Why? It's not even working here. And you're taking a gamble. Like, it might work, it might not. Every country has ethnic issues, like South Africa, even African countries. Like, there's a dynamic between everything. In every country, there's rich, there's poor, there's skin color, whatever. Like, there's religion, there's certain Muslim versus Christian battles, there's Jewish and Christian, or Jewish and Muslim in the Middle East to some extent. I'm not saying that like defines it, but it's like this idea. I just don't agree that they're just like, we are going to do this and it's going to work out. Like, it's not. You want it to. Like, we're just being lied to so hard on all this stuff. Like, we can bring all this stuff to this country in Africa and they're going to be just like us. Possibly, but possibly not. Or we're going to spend $1 trillion on this neighborhood and build all this stuff. It's people got to, and I'll take it from this too. Just like I was talking about with business before, I accomplished what I've done because I worked really hard. I've seen people that were talented. I've seen people that I thought could have made it, and they didn't. And they didn't because they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to put in the work I put in. They didn't want to follow the path I followed. They didn't want to be as persistent as I did. And they didn't want to be as, I think, honest as I was being to myself, etc. That's how the world works too. Like, everybody's not you and doesn't want to put in what you put in to get the results that you want. Why are some people jacked? Because they work out. Why are some people even more jacked? Because they take steroids. Why are some people fat? Because they don't, and there's other reasons in their life that maybe got them there. But in general, it's like everybody doesn't want the same things. This idea that every country and every group of people and all the migrants are going to be just like you, that doesn't exist in any facet of life. Take race out of it for a second. Not that it needs to be, because race is another thing that there's different cultures, different religions, different customs and foods, and it is different. But at the same time, it's just like on a human to human level, that's not how things work. That would be like people being like, oh, we're going to bring these women into your business and they're going to run the business exactly the same. That's not, more likely it's not going to work, because every person can't do everything everyone else does. Like, that's not how any aspect of anything in society works. I'm not saying I'm so special, but there's certain things that I want to do. There's certain disciplines that I have and certain disciplines that I don't have. And I get the result that I deserve, and other people get different results based on what they do. You're just going to import millions of people or bring certain culture to other people, assuming they want that. I could talk about certain neighborhoods in America where I believe this, and maybe it's controversial, but I don't believe poverty is the reason that crime and shitty neighborhoods exist. Like, does poverty help? Of course not. Would an economy help? Sure. But there's places where the economy's booming and the neighborhood is still crazy bad because the most people there, or the collective of people, they don't want to live in a nice society. I want to live somewhere clean and nice and safe and around people that are not savages and doing stuff that's just disgraceful. That's what I want. So I seek that out. And if I see something that's not like that, I won't go there. And most people do the same. So it's like, if you go to a certain area, sure, the economy could be better. Sure, people could help. But it's like a friend that you want to be successful, but they won't be successful. You can't force somebody to do something that they don't want to do. Not your cousin, not your sister, not your son, not your daughter. You got conservatives that their kids are transgendering. Do they want them to transgender? No, but they lose control of their kids, and eventually they can't even get their own kids to listen to their sexual ideology. Elon Musk being one of them because of a divorce or something. But in general, it's like, so you can't even control your own family members yet, like, or your own people in your own circle don't necessarily want what you want, but every community wants the exact same thing. It's not true. And I would say this with certain cities and stuff, in the bad areas of the city, the way they treat people there and each other, it's just not desirable. So then anybody that wants to live in a nice place, they leave, they run away. You know what I'm saying? If anybody makes money, they run away because they don't want to be there because it's not desirable. So it's like, sure, you could help, but you could send Mark Zuckerberg to the city spending $20 trillion. Maybe the people don't want that, or maybe they want it, but they don't want to work for it. It's just like working out. Like, yeah, you want this body, but do you want to stop eating so much? Do you want to work out? Do you want to go to bed early and wake up early? Most people don't want to do that shit, so they don't get those results. Like, everybody's just assuming that everybody wants everything good and everybody wants everything that they want. And I don't think it's the case. Like, I would love for a reality show. I've been saying this for a minute, but I would love for a reality show to go to an inner city with $50 trillion. I mean, that would be probably too much, but like, all the money, all the resources, all the schools, everything, take it all. And then be like, try to build it and make it successful. I bet they could do some stuff, but I don't even think it would make they would help some kids. They would help some families. Absolutely. And it's beautiful. I've gone to cities and helped families too, because it's a nice thing to do. But in general, it's like, the truth is, people got to act right. And you got to like change the culture there. Because if people think it's okay to just talk shit and treat everybody like shit all the time and yell at the store owner, that's not okay. Like, that's self-control. There's people that don't have money in other countries that don't do that. It's like, it's not a way to get good results. So this is like the dynamic to everything that they're telling us. Like, and the left falls into this way more, the victim narrative. I get it though, because I am compassionate and I understand that there are certain things that are absolutely true, but you got to ask yourself what you want to give up to get that. Because, for example, America is nice, but what if in 30 years it's not nice anymore and everyone lost everything in the pursuit of trying to help other people, and now this is a place that nobody wants to be, and then we got to go somewhere else? Now you ruin the whole thing. It's like, helping refugees is nice, but if you let them take over an entire hotel, then it's not really a hotel anymore. It's like, so there's a way to help people without being so foolish, but the only way to do it, and this is, I guess, my overarching point, the only way to do it is to be honest about it. You can't say you can't talk about groups. That makes no sense. You can only talk about individuals. Also makes no sense. You can't say this or that. That's a lie. You have to say that it's only going to get better when we do this. It's not true. It's not true in any aspect of reality outside of race or gender or anything. So why in the world would that be true? Like, if you had 10 women like come into your life, does your life always get better because they're women? If they're cool women, then sure. If they suck, then they'll ruin your life. Like, it's like, it's like 10 women coming into your life doesn't mean your life gets better. It all depends. It could get better, it could get worse. But certain groups come and everything gets amazing and nothing bad happens. Yeah, no one believes that. Like, someone said the same people, thank you for the super chat. The same people who helped Epstein commit suicide are the same ones wanting Trump dead. Said, how dare you? Thanks for the super chat. It's not impossible. Someone said, try Hinduism. Christianity isn't your thing. Are you talking to me, or you arguing with somebody? You trying to sell me out to the Hindus, bro? You giving me up this quickly? Is this a It's like the Chappelle race draft, racial draft. You're trying to do the religious draft. You're trying to sell me to the Hindus. I don't know. We got any Hindus in here? You guys want to pick me up? The Christians are trying to throw me off the Noah's Ark here. I'm not going to go that easily, but I just want to see. We got any Hindus in the house? Do you guys want anomaly or no? You can throw me back to the Christians. Let me know. Maybe the people who must not be named want me, maybe they see the potential in me, maybe not. No religions want me right now. Got you. Someone said, stay away from yoga. It's crazy evil. I like to stretch, but I'm not doing any I'll say a prayer to Christ while I'm stretching. I'm not going to get involved in the spirituality of it, but I do think stretching is healthy. I guess the Hindus don't want me. I understand. I wouldn't want me either, I guess, after this one. Someone said, I ain't Hindu. I eat burgers, but cows are tight. You sound like a degenerate American. Welcome to the club. The Gnostics want you. I don't even know what a Gnostic is. I've heard it, but it's like, I'm a Gnostic. It's so magical. It's like, all right, bro, relax. We're at a Costco. It's like, I'm a Gnostic. You're like, all right, dude. I'm just here for the free samples, my guy. Anomaly, you got a new girl yet? No, I've been single. I don't know. I've just been picky, and I'm probably going to move eventually and probably go to a state with no income tax. So I'm kind of focused on that. I got to make a lot of life decisions here soon. So I haven't been giving anybody that type of attention. But thanks for asking about my personal life. I appreciate it. If I want some good hip hop, I should listen to Mock Homie. Is that you? Your homie? Someone said Gnosticism is basically Christian mysticism. I'll look into it, I guess. Do I want to kiss the Pope's feet? Absolutely not. No, I would never do that. Not this Pope, at least. Probably no Pope. That's gross. I'm not. Is that what they do? Or does the Pope kiss other people's feet? What he kisses migrants' feet or something? What if, I'm not trying to be blasphemous, but what if guys just had a foot fetish and they just didn't want to tell everyone, so they were acting like they were being so nice? They're like, I'm kissing all these feet, and everyone's like, wow, what a nice guy. And he's just a freak, just not trying to tell everybody. He's just yeah. He's like, what if we did it again and we flew to another country to do it? They're like, dude, you've done it enough, dude. We got our photo op, we put it on the BBC, we put it on CNN. Everybody sees you out here kissing feet. I think that's enough. And he's like, dude, just one more foreign country, please. Dude, you guys are saying it's gross. I didn't say I was into it. I just said that might be what they're doing. You never know. How could you know if they're doing that unless you bring it up? But I do see him doing those photo ops sometimes. He's like, I'm a man of the people. It's like, all right, bro. You could be I'm not I could tell different cultures I like them without doing that. Someone said stop. It's too late. I already started it. So I'm not doing that. If I go to a foreign country, I'll shake someone's hand, I'm not going to do that, but someone said, and Anomaly said, if you're fat, it's because you don't work out. Hold on. Not true. My sister had a problem with weight and she worked out. Everyone's different. Is what I'm saying. There's certain medical issues, absolutely, but at the end of the day, it's a simple equation. You eat, you work out, or you don't. It's calories, it's how much you're intaking, it's how much you're exporting. You could work out, but if you're eating too much, if you're eating 5,000 calories a day and you work out and burn 1,000 calories or 200 calories, you're not going to lose weight. Plus the food in America sucks. So I'm not out here calling people fatties oh, you don't work out. I work out and I'm not in perfect shape, but I would say I'm getting in better shape every day, I hope. But yeah, I'm not trying to shame people, but it's kind of a cope. I could say I'm trying my hardest, but I'm not, I'm trying to get my abs back completely. It's getting pretty close. I mean, some days I look and I'm like, oh, it looks like vintage Anomaly, but I don't sit here and cope and be like, I'm trying my hardest and my abs are not back. It's no, I got to do more. I got to do more workouts. I got to eat less or eat better. That's just the reality of it. It's not, but unless you have a real medical emergency or something, and then you really can't, that's another thing. Can't outwork a bad diet. That's true. Someone said, bro looks like a healthier, sober, moist, critical. Dude, it's funny because I have a stepbrother, and when I saw him, he thought I was that guy. I was like, he's like, is this you? And I was like, no, I was like, I don't think I look that much like him, but my own stepbrother thought I was that guy, which was hilarious. I hadn't seen him in years. I saw him at a family event. He's like, are you like Penguin Zero or something on YouTube? I was like, no. He's like, oh, I thought that was you. It's like, okay. Anyway. The Pope versus the globalists. Yeah, I don't think he's fighting the globalists, to be honest, but I'm not trying to be anti-Catholic medic or something. Is that what it's called? Anti-Semitic is like if you talk about certain things, but then what is it called? Like you're anti-Catholic. If you don't want the Pope to kiss everybody's feet in Africa, you're anti-Catholic. And if you don't think the Pope's fighting the globalists, you're anti-Catholic, whatever. Why do people worship the Pope? I mean, I think at one point people thought the Pope was awesome, but I'm not trying to blaspheme Catholics, but the Pope is, I don't know. It's a hierarchy. Like, God is God and then man is man. So a Pope is a man. I'm not like, at some point something happened there. I don't know what happened in the Catholic Church, but at some point, Sneaky McSneakerson got elevated to the Pope status, and it's not good. It's not ideal. It's like being American and your president sucks. It's like, I don't hate my country, but not a fan of this guy. But God bless him. Hopefully we can get him out. He's like kissing feet. He's like, open your borders. I'll kiss all the feet. He's like, what if we stopped all the migrants and I kissed their feet on the way in? You're like, dude, relax. You got to stop with this stuff. He's like, dude, but open borders is the way to get Jesus into your heart. You got to open the border of your soul. I don't know, bro. You sound a little sold out to me. I don't think Christians and Catholics need to let tens of millions of people in order to be Christians and Catholics. It doesn't make like any historical sense at all. But who am I? I'm not the Pope, so don't listen to me. Appreciate you guys. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and I'll probably do one on Friday or tomorrow. But yeah, let me know. What are you thinking about P. Diddy? Let me know in the comment section. How do you think this Israel-Lebanon war is going to affect everything? Like, I just, that in the Ukraine war, like, I just really would love if people could figure it out. But it's like, when you listen to either side, they're like, no, we're not going to figure it out. And we're going to keep taking your money and we're going to keep fighting. Okay. I like, eventually people got to stop. No, like the Ukraine is not going to beat Russia. They got to stop at some point. No, they think they're going to beat up Russia. It's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. Israel, Iran, Lebanon, like, what are we doing here? How long are they going to fight? They've been fighting for 70 years, 50 years. They're going to win the war in a year. I don't see it happening, but of course it's hateful to say that. So we got to just keep funneling money and, hoping it ends or something. But I would love, oh yeah, I forgot to report the thousands of bottles of lube or something that Diddy had. They said that's just crazy. Like the feds just raid his lube and they're like, we found the lube. Something about that's weird. Like, I understand they're telling the public this stuff, but like, I don't know. That was an odd moment. They're like, we got it. You're like, okay, thanks for letting us know, feds. Thank you for that info or whatever, so everyone could report on it. But all right, I'm out. I'll see you guys soon, and I'll do another live stream eventually.
Hey, what's going on, my friends? Just a few ways to stay in touch and support if you'd like to. The first way is dreamrare.com. We have blue beanies, black beanies, pink hats, other colored hats, freedom versus tyranny shirts, stay blessed long sleeve, God is great long sleeve, and lots of more cool items coming soon. Dreamrare.com. Check out the shop to support. Everything's made in the United States. Handpicked by me. Patreon.com/raretalk for $5 a month. You can help support me, support the show. If you haven't noticed, unlike other channels, I don't work with very many sponsors, sometimes none at all. And part of the way I'm able to do that is with the dreamrare.com shop and patreon.com/raretalk. So thank you guys for keeping this show free, unimpeded, uninterrupted. I'm forever grateful. My free email list is stayintouchwithme.com.